and McDonough Show.
Hi, it's Dr. Brian McDonough. Welcome to the Dr. Brian McDonough Show. My guest is David Boardman. Dr. Boardman is the Dean of the Klein College of Media and Communication at Temple University in Philadelphia. Basically, a long, long list of accolades in his career back in the state of Washington and continuing. But right now, and since 2013, he's been serving in this role at Temple. Uh, in reading, I already know from experience and talking to so many people, but there's about 2,500 students there now.
Yeah, more than that. And I should correct you, Dr. McDonough, that I am not a doctor. I'm one of the very few deans at Temple University without a doctorate. I have only a master's degree, but I think they decided that a few Pulitzer prizes under my belt was worth as much as a degree. So
I was about to say they probably saw some of your list of awards and said, "All right, I think he's done a little bit in the news and information business." But tell me a little bit, just to start, about yourself. It's interesting because clearly you were extremely successful in the newspaper business, doing other things, and yet you decided really to get into education and to teach a new generation. Tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, I most of my career I studied journalism at Northwestern University in Chicago, which is a fine institution, and then I actually went off to Africa. I was in a Peace Corps-like program in Africa. Followed a woman to the Northwest. I'm still with her many years later, and got a job on a little weekly newspaper in the San Juan Islands. Jumped from there to a slightly larger daily newspaper, and then I got a graduate degree at the University of Washington in communication. Worked at a larger daily, and then I landed at the Seattle Times right out of my graduate degree, and I worked there for 30 years. I loved it. Did pretty much every job in the newsroom, from reporting up to ultimately being the executive editor, the top editor there. Most of that focus in investigative journalism, and really loved it. Family-owned newspaper. It was great until it wasn't. Back in the late part of the 20s and the early part of the 2010s, the newspaper business really started to decline. And over the course of a couple of years, I had to lay off more than 100 people, almost all of whom I had hired. So it occurred to me that I didn't necessarily want to do that for the rest of my life, and I wanted to try to get to an elevation where I could both help figure out the future of a troubled profession, and at the same time really engage with young, innovative people who would help reinvent journalism, which is so crucial for the country. I had been quite involved with a board that accredits schools of journalism and mass communication, and because of that, I got on the headhunters radar. Got a call from Temple University. All I knew about Temple at the time was Bill Cosby pre-scandal and John Chaney. But I came out, fell in love with the place, and I've been here for 9 years now.
That's great. And you know what I love about what you did, you have real world experience to draw on as well. I think that's so important. As someone, I teach medical students and residents and done it forever. And part of it is, you go to war and you're doing your job. And, one of the things I always tell them, I told one today when I was working with them, I said, "Oh no, this is a mistake I made early on in training. I didn't call my attending. And thank goodness the patient did well. But had I not," and you're able to tell your own stories, which I think gives a greater sense of reality. Have you seen the same thing as you deal with students or faculty and others?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I really love about this particular college, which is called the Lou Klein College of Media and Communication, and we can talk more about that. But one of the things I love about the college is we have a just spectacular mix of faculty here. We have among our full-time faculty, we have people who are primarily scholars. They do have PhDs, but almost every one of them has at least some experience working in the business. And they really are equipped to provide the really strong theoretical foundation real meaningful education in critical thinking and analysis and data analysis and experimentation. They're really important. Then we have a group of full-time faculty who have come directly from industry. And that's not just journalism, but advertising, public relations, nonprofit communication. And those are people like me who came directly from the business. And then we have a group of what we call adjunct professors who are part-time professors, most of whom are still working in these industries. So that makes sure that we stay very current. In a lot of schools, they don't have that mix, or if they do, there's great gulfs and disrespect among those groups of professors. And in our school, it's quite the opposite. Everybody appreciates what each other bring to the table. They work together. There's a lot of team teaching, a lot of teamwork, and I think the students really benefit from all of that.
I'll share a story. I went to Temple Medical School and graduated in '85, and then I'm doing residency. I wanted to get into broadcasting and done a few things, public television and public radio, and came across an opportunity with Temple on WRTI, which is Temple's radio station, to do a medical talk show. Started, I said, hey, I'll stay as long as you guys want me. And it actually lasted about 18 years.
Wow.
And I was doing TV, I'm doing radio, I'm doing all these other things. And I kept doing the show. And people said, why are you doing the show? I said, well, first of all, you get an hour to talk about health issues, which is incredibly valuable to people who will listen, but also working with the students. I mean, it was almost like I was coming in from my perspective, looking at it a different way as a doctor, and I'm learning as much from them because they're telling me what they learned in class. And it did seem like and for the people I dealt with, there was just a free-flowing conversation. And I thought that was the thing I noticed. And when I started doing these series of interviews that I'm doing now, one of the people I interviewed was Paul Gluck. And Paul Gluck is a faculty member at Temple. And I knew him from the days when he was news director at Channel 10 and Channel 3 in Philadelphia. And, and he talked about the opportunities, had me talk to his class a few times. And Temple graduates, are all over the country as far as broadcasting, writing, journalism. I'm sure you could probably go through a litany, but national level, local level.
Oh yeah, it's truly phenomenal. It's one of the things. There is a great heritage here from before I got here of Temple grads just achieving great things around the country. We have. I'm just thinking of a few off the top of my head. A gentleman named Joe B. Warwick, who is a two-time Pulitzer winner, not only for his reporting for the Washington Post, but then he won a Pulitzer for a book that he wrote. Hardly any reporters can say that, both newspaper work and books.
Wow.
We have Kevin Negandhi, the first Asian American anchor on SportsCenter on ESPN, and now anchors the college football show on ABC. Tamron Hall, who is a renowned daytime host and variety host. Just in every medium, print, digital, broadcast, television, radio, Temple Owls are everywhere. They truly are, and the same in the advertising and PR professions as well.
I do want to ask you a little bit about Lou Klein. I had the opportunity probably more than a few years ago, to see Tina Fey receive an award at a luncheon, and at that point, obviously Lou Klein, he's always had a role with journalism with Temple. Tell me a little bit about that relationship, because the school is named after him.
Yeah, it's truly phenomenal. So when I arrived here in 2013, I met Lou. He was the chair of what we call our board of visitors, which is primarily alums, but also other people involved in the school. Lou was not an alum of Temple. He went to Penn. He graduated from Penn and almost immediately went into the then totally nascent television business back in the 40s and 50s, and really in many ways helped invent local television. He invented, to a large extent, the local television newsroom. He was the first person to put weather on television. The whole action news format at Channel 6 was largely his doing. He produced American Bandstand, Romper Room. He discovered Dick Clark. Just phenomenal career. Ultimately wound up owning 6 television stations himself. The entire time, from the time he was 26 years old until the time he was 91 years old, he taught part-time at Temple.
Wow.
And that was purely just to give back and to keep himself rejuvenated and working with young people. It certainly wasn't for the money. He did it as a part-time job. And after I'd been here a few years, Lou and I were at lunch and we were talking about how great it would be at the school at the time, was just called the School of Media and Communication, and how great it would be to have a name that often, to build a real reputation for a school or college, you need to have a name. And so he was throwing out names of various people. And I said, Lou, there's really only one person for whom this school should be named, and I'm looking at him. Unfortunately, I can't do it for free. That's the way universities work. But Lou and his wonderful wife Janet, who's a great Pennsylvania icon in her own right, they were very generous with us in making a gift. And then there were so many people who loved him. Many more people joined in, and we were able to establish a threshold where Temple agreed to name the school for Lou. And the greatest thing was, we did it while Lou was still here and still alive. So he got to enjoy that for several years, which I was very proud of.
Yeah, he got to, especially after all those years of putting his heart and soul into it. And again, if you're from the Philadelphia area, I mean, just the Action News format, which obviously it's around the country, but the way it's dominated news locally. One of the interviews we had, Jim Gardner was talking about that, how when he started, I think they've been number one since he probably started. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's 40 or 50 years. I mean, it's unheard of around the country that one station is as dominant. And yeah, Lou built that. And, he was such a committed and ethical man that I just feel proud every day that our school has his name.
I do want to ask you, and I want to be respectful of your time, I do want to ask you a little bit for, again, this is YouTube, you get a lot of people, different age groups, different people watching things. Somebody wants to go into broadcasting. They want to go into journalism. They want to go into advertising or whatever. What is the world like right now? Because I think we clearly are at a change. The traditional things are kind of moving away. Things are changing. Do you see it as an optimistic time, a time for growth? What's your view?
Yeah, I think it's the most exciting time to go into these fields, because never has there been the opportunity for young people early in their career to really help change, reinvent, reinvigorate an industry, various of these industries as there is now. And the fact is that while people like me or people who hold higher positions in many of these news and PR and advertising outlets, there's a lot they understand about the business. What they will never understand, like this new generation, is how to use these digital tools as effectively. And so there's tremendous opportunity. And I'm really proud. We employ here another Philadelphia journalism icon, a woman named Luann Kahn, who was a longtime investigative reporter for Channel 10. And she is our director of career services. And through Luann's office, we place more than 90% of our students into jobs in these professions in which they're studying. So I know a lot of parents are uptight about, oh, there's no jobs in journalism or in advertising. And there are different sorts of jobs. Whereas when I came up, you just were a reporter. Well, now you might be a digital producer. You might be a product manager. There are many different roles that can be played within these professions. And they're just as important as reporting in delivering meaningful content to people. And we prepare students to work across all media. Somebody comes out of here, they not only know how to write, but they have at least serviceable skills in video, audio, podcasting, and they understand the business aspects of the profession as well.
Just read a book, which probably you may have read, but it was up there. It's about 6 months old, From Strength to Strength. And it's talking about people as they get older, younger and then older. And that when you're older, one of the greatest skills that you develop, I think he called it crystallized knowledge, is basically the ability to teach, to educate, to use what you have gained when you are young and you see the big picture to help. Seems like you've taken advantage of that also with faculty, and probably in your own world, but also with faculty, that you can look back. I mean, I would have to think, you win Pulitzer prizes like you have, and you've done these things. You've seen different sides of it. It's probably a great perspective you can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've made an effort to bring in people directly from the business who can really complement those who have done the research and can provide that sort of greater historical context. But just over the past year, again, other Philly icons, Mark Zumoff now works here and teaches, play-by-play broadcasting to aspiring sports journalists. We created a new Center for Sports Media that we named for a woman named Claire Smith, who is a Black journalist who was the first woman inducted into the sports writers wing of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and she's teaching here. So the opportunity to learn from those people, and as you say, the lessons that can only come from decades of experience is priceless.
Anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to bring up? I mean, it's so nice of you to join me on the program, but is there anything else that you thought, either for young people watching or just other people, interested in the work you do?
Well, I mean, I guess I would just remind people that there's only one industry that is specifically protected in the United States Constitution, and that is journalism. And journalism is taking a lot of arrows these days, but I think if any citizen steps back and thinks about it, this democracy cannot survive without meaningful, trustworthy journalism. And that is what we are trying to prepare our students to provide. We need smart, capable people to go into this business. It is in great change, but it's never been more important to the country than it is now. And just ask people to support what's out there and to support the young people who want to pursue it.
David Boardman, thanks for taking the time to join me on the Dr. Brian McDonough Show. It's been a real honor having you on.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, and I love hearing you on the radio.
Thanks a lot. Hope to stay there for a while. All right. Thanks, David.
The Dr. Brian McDonough Show.